In a world of 350 billion movie podcasts, two chumps have decided that now is the time for cult movies to engage in combat. Disagreements will be had, blood may be spilled, and voiceover artists most definitely will not be paid. This is Cult Film Face-Off.
Hello and welcome to Cult Film Face-Off, episode 67. With me, as always, is Chet Roivas.
Hello.
And I am Nick Leonard. In this week's episode, we are facing off two 80s horror roms. It's House from 1985 versus The Gate from 1987. First up, directed by Steve Miner, is House. A successful author moves into his dead aunt's house and tries to pen a novel based on his time in Vietnam, when strange things start to occur and he inadvertently discovers that the house is in fact a gateway to a hellish netherworld. House.
This is a house where no one should live.
Woman lived here before you was nuts. Wouldn't be surprised if someone just got fed up and offed her.
She was my aunt.
Heart of gold, though.
Roger Cobb has come here alone.
Daddy?
But no one is ever alone in the house.
This house knows everything about you. Leave while you can.
No! Horror has found a new home. House. Enter at your own risk.
Chet.
Yeah.
House. Have you seen it?
I've never seen this. Again, as is so common with this show, I remember the VHS cover very vividly
Cracking
from my
VHS
memory.
cover.
Well, I looked at it recently and I'm like, oh,
It's pretty basic.
my whole childhood I thought it was something else, because it is a finger pressing a doorbell. I thought the fingertip was the thin wrist and it was like a limp hand holding out of the door, which kind of didn't make any sense. It looks like a limp hand. I just was looking at it wrong, so I saw it and I was like, okay, it makes more sense that something's ringing the bell. But I'd never seen this. Had you seen it?
I had seen it. I'd seen it really young.
Yeah.
I'd seen House 2, House 3. I'd seen all the houses on the strength of how much I liked House.
Wow, okay.
Loved House. As a kid, House, I watched House again and again.
So is this the first time you've been back to it since then?
Yeah, since I was a kid.
Okay. I mean, how's it?
I mean, the bits. I mean, as a kid, I was just really into the Big Ben, the zombified Big Ben. That was and also just it was very. I think it was very over the top. It was, for a kid, it's perfect because it's kind of, it is horror, it is comedy. When you're talking really young, like I was like 9-10 years of age, so you think it's a proper bona fide horror film, and you watch it now and you go like, oh no.
I watched the trailer to refresh my memory a little bit because I saw it a few weeks ago. And I watched the trailer. I was like, it's a really neat trailer. It makes it look like there's a lot of shocks and a lot of jumps and I don't think it's just really well marketed. So I mean, do you think it stands up?
God, no. It's TV movie fodder.
Yeah.
And really bad act. I mean, the main guy, the main dude, is a terrible actor. It's a terrible screen presence.
No question.
It's got there's moments which are quite nice. I like the off-kilter tone of the book signing with all the oddballs.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, actually, that was a high point thinking about it. Yeah.
And the estate agent harpoon misfire.
Yeah, right.
Was quite good. But I mean, really, there's not much else here to recommend.
It's one of the most peculiar, strange films I've ever seen, and I don't mean that in a good way. I mean, I just don't really understand anything about it. I'd say it's a museum piece, but I don't know what it would be. What would you put on the little card?
I mean, I could see why I enjoyed it as a kid. I can see it's very aimed at kids.
That makes sense.
The humour is very aimed at kids, and also the sort of the plasticky special effects, which I thought were very cool young. I mean, now you look at them and just go, well, they look pretty fucking god awful.
Yeah.
It's got an oddness to it, that even as a kid, I remember, when the big fucking fish on the wall starts coming to life. It's all a bit fucking odd and weird. And as a kid, you think, I'm watching a proper fucking like.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Actually, I didn't even really think about that. I was because First of all, trying to find it on the IMDb is a real mission. I typed in house, I tried putting the year in.
You keep getting that Hugh Laurie fucking series.
Exactly. It's just buried.
Yeah.
And it's completely forgotten about. But I just Well, I mean, when it started, the first 3 minutes, there's a kid who's carrying some shopping, walking into a house. Obviously, he's delivering the shopping, and he says, "It's me, grocery boy," and I burst out laughing because that is a funny line of dialogue. And then he walks into a room, and there's a genuine shock when he happens upon that corpse. I was like, a laugh and a jump in the first 3 minutes. This is going to, I'm like, bring it on. And after that, I know I sound like a broken record, but this is the kind of haunted house movie where anything goes. You know, it's like we spoke about with The Beyond. Yeah. Anything can happen. It's essentially a 90-minute long dream sequence, and when anything goes, so does my interest. I find it very, very hard to pay attention. And this, it's such an odd film. I reckon they must have just said to Steve Miner, "We've got a release window. We've got a bit of money. Can you shoot something in the next 2 weeks, and then we'll put it out?" Because it feels. When I studied film at university very briefly, and it was amazing to me how many times we were given a writing assignment, and the writing would be like, "Whoa, weird shit happens," and then a guy wakes up and he's next to his twin, and it's actually his wife or something. You know, you're just like, it's all of that weird shit. It's kind of this just cavalcade of. And then this weird thing happened. I was like, okay.
But I mean, the flashbacks, the Vietnam flashbacks, pretty high concept.
Well, I mean, the production values are amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if they shot those in that house. It looks like they were shot in the same house.
It's some of the most shoddy-like Vietnam foot ever committed to tell you. It's so shoddy.
I actually think in the opening of Police Academy 3, when Tackleberry's in his back garden, I think that's more convincing Vietnam film. This is never really, as an adult watching it today, it's never recognisably a straight horror film or a comedy, although it has weird traits. Like, if there's any threat of potential tension, it's undermined by these sitcom transitions. So there's like fade outs and wipes and stuff, and then they'll just blare really, really upbeat pop music on the soundtrack. And like, what? It's like a John Hughes film suddenly. Like, what? It's so confusing.
The tone is very inconsistent.
I mean, completely. I mean, when you have a low budget like this, you need to be ingenious, and this just absolutely isn't. I mean, when you consider that a year later, Evil Dead 2 came out, this just won't do. It's unfair to compare it to that, but at the same time, I mean, this might have made a sort of slightly macabre Twilight Zone episode or something, but for 90 minutes. And I just was I kept picturing how it was made. And I imagined like a Hollywood test screening pre-release and them showing them the film and go, "Oh, what did you think?" Because there's a scene in it where a woman randomly turns up to the house and says, "Can you babysit my boy? I'm going out." And then he's looking after the boy. Some demons attempt to kidnap it through a chimney, and then he gives the boy a bath, and then the woman turns up and then takes the child back, and that's the end of that. And I just thought, so what did you think about that? Well, it didn't make sense. Great. That's exactly what we're looking for.
More of that, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. It was just like... I find films like this very hard to not be annoyed by, because it's all in service of absolutely shit all. I was hoping there was going to be some mammoth twist at the end or something, but it's nothing. It's just... Did you this must have been endearing to you, much more so.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got the history with it. So everything for me was just, I remember the big fat rubbery woman coming out. I remember all the kitchen utensils coming out. I remember Ben, the Vietnam vet, coming back at the end. But it was so humorous in tone. I actually thought that was, I remember thinking back, it gets quite dark at the end. Couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah, I mean, it's a film aimed squarely at kids. I mean, that's why it appealed to my 10-year-old, back in the day.
See, watching it, I never even thought about kids as a potential market. I always thought this is trying to be a horror comedy for adults.
Because that's what they do. They slip it under the 15. It's under the 15 certificate. That basically means 10, 11-year-olds are going to be watching.
Yeah, true that. Yeah, I never even considered that. But I mean, it's one of those movies where I'm just like, what are we here for? Why are we here? I find it very... I mean, I want to try and avoid repeating myself, because I said the same thing at The Beyond. When things are this, just anything can go. I mean, almost every single plot line could be excised, and it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference. I mean, the babysitter bit, that had nothing to do with anything. That could go. It's a load of non sequiturs.
His knitted V-neck, though, is a plunge to the heart.
Yeah, I mean, he knows how to dress that guy.
And Kane Hodder. I mean, interesting for people, fans of the Friday the 13th
Was
series.
he in it?
Kane Hodder, who was Jason in at least 2 of the Jason films. He's on stunt duty, no credited part. I mean, Steve Miner, he directed Friday the 13th Part 2. He did Halloween H2O,
yeah, that's right.
which was actually one of the better Halloween sequels.
Yeah, see, I think they honestly, I can't imagine a different scenario than them just saying, we've got a release window, we have a bit of money, can you knock something out? Yeah, because they did it for about $1 million, I think. And they shot it quite quickly.
It's got that rush production feel to it.
And just like, will this do? Is this okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I on this podcast, I've said the phrase, what is this, way too many times, but I just am like, I don't know what this is. If you put this in a museum, I mean, it's so completely unlike anything I can compare it to. It's disappeared off the face of the planet.
It's weird how it's just
it's
dropped
gone. Yeah. I mean, I think it has a sort of slightly... I don't want to be impolite, but slightly insane fan base. I've read some blog posts bigging it up, and they're talking about how it's a great...
It's so much better than House 2 and 3, I tell you.
Is it really?
Fuck, yeah.
Isn't the House 3 meant to be quite good?
No, terrible.
Is it terrible? Right, okay.
Terrible.
I always thought that was meant to be a good one. I mean, if I'm going to give it any kind of accolade, the one accolade I can give it is that I think it's the most forgettable film I've ever seen. I mean, I'm trying... I rewatched The Train, I was like, oh, yeah, and then Norm from Cheers, and... I mean, just trying to piece it together in my head. I mean, it's so forgettable. It is sort of built to to make a quick buck at the cinema, and then sort of, it's a shame it can't.
But I think it's quite there's bits of it that, the rubbery special effects. The kind of tongue-in-cheek tone. I don't. Yeah, but I've got nostalgia attached to it. And nostalgia's a motherfucker, and it's a really strong emotion that waves over you. So I was just kind of like, I didn't mind watching it at all. I quite enjoyed it to a degree.
Okay, I mean, I could see
why a young kid would
like it. It's weird that I watched it and I never even thought about how it might have been sort of geared towards children. I just kind of was annoyed at. This is one of those films that that don't work for me. Although I'll say one thing, I did laugh at It's Me, Grocery Boy or Delivery Boy or whatever he said. There's a very funny moment when he's watching his is it his wife or his ex-wife?
Yeah,
she's in in her soap opera, and it nails that insanely feeble exposition of soap operas.
Yeah.
Some character, there's a conversation, and the character just says, "I can't help the fact that I've been a male prostitute my whole life." And I was like, "That is fantastic." That sort of displayed a sort of level of awareness that the rest of the film... I mean, it's just the rest of the film just doesn't have that.
The one gag that stood out to me is when he first meets Norm from Cheers as his neighbour, and he completely slagged off the... He just slammed it, he goes, but she had a
heart of gold. Actually, I was going to... I mean, it's the oldest joke in the book. But yeah, I mean, that was something, I suppose. But this is a confusing... Everything about it is just very, very confusing. It is... a relic of some sort, but I don't really understand. What, I mean, I could never. I mean, do you reckon this ever gets like retrospective showings at the cinema?
No, but I'm not surprised that it has got this like a very concentrated.
Yeah, it's very small. Yeah. It's very small. But I remember I tried reading a blog post about someone saying this is one of the best.
Forgotten.
No. But it's one of the best illustrations of a PTSD-riddled mind from Vietnam, and I was like, I think you need to watch more movies. Anyway, this is a confusing, weird, unbelievably strange film that's just.
But if all that's your kind of bag.
I couldn't recommend this to if you
watched it. Well, I mean, I'd really like to hear what people think about it. People who've seen it as a kid, people. I mean, people watching it fresh, people who've got a relationship with it, watching it as a kid.
Yeah, especially if you've genuinely gone back to it and think that it does hold up on some level. Because I thought this is a hell of a. I mean, I just don't get it. Sorry to keep saying that phrase, but I've said it a lot recently. But I just don't get what this film is. Yeah.
Right, okay, next up, directed by Tibor Takacs, is The Gate from 1987. Two young boys, left home alone, accidentally open up a gate to hell, unleashing a horde of pint-sized demons. What follows is a battle of good and evil as the boys struggle to overcome the dark forces that begin to take over the earth. The Gate.
There is a passageway to the most evil place you can imagine. A gate, behind which the demons wait to take back what was once theirs. And now, someone has opened the gate. Pray, it's not too late.
Right, The Gate.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No. Again, it's slightly less memorable VHS cover than House, but I saw it in my video shop a multitude of times when I was a kid, and I never rented it primarily because it was a 15 certificate over here. In America, I believe it was a PG-13, so kids can go and see it. But yeah, it was always a 15 here. So this is my first time watching it. I'd never seen it before. Had you seen it?
Yeah, I'd seen it before. Yeah.
As a kid?
Yes, as a
obviously,
kid.
Yeah.
Okay. Around at the same time as House.
Okay.
And I remember really liking it as a kid.
The Gate.
Yeah, but I didn't remember anything.
Okay.
I mean, I had literally, all I remember was very vividly some special effects. I remember the Ray Harryhausen-esque kind of demons.
Yeah.
And I remember the special effect of when Stephen Dorff looks at his hand and he stabs his hand with an eye that pops out.
That's right.
I didn't remember anything else at all. Nothing at all. Apart from watching The Gate 2 and not liking The Gate 2 as much as The Gate 1. It was such a long time ago. It took me going back nearly 25 years ago. This takes a long time to get going.
Yeah, that's true.
And it throws everything at the wall. I mean, everything. Demons, meteors, ghosts, levitation. It throws everything at the wall, and it really there's some really nice bits of effects in there, some decent effects
totally.
for a 15 rated film. I mean, quite graphic for a 15 as well. There's a bit where a demon poses as his dad gets his face smashed in.
To be honest, that scene, that whole I mean, that's the first lapse into really explicit horror. And I thought if I saw that as a kid, I would have been traumatized because first off, it's a dead dog in the bed. Yeah. Then there's a demon under the bed, and then the doppelgangers. Yeah, it's their parents, and then don't they start falling to pieces or something?
Well, it cuts off an arm and turns into a slug.
Yeah, I mean, but that would be a really strong, effective stretch in a Nightmare on Elm Street film or something. I was like, this would have properly upset me as a kid. I can understand why it was a 15. Yeah. But yeah, I really, really like this film. There was a lot wrong with it. I mean, when it started, it is another film that's heavily indebted to Spielberg and E.T. especially. But it's like Invaders from Mars, the Tobe Hooper film. The scenes of the family interacting at the beginning, they just show how insanely gifted Spielberg is, because they don't seem, it's really stilted. They don't seem like a family interacting at all, and there's no deviation from the blueprint whatsoever. Stephen Dorff is told off at dinner, and then the dad goes upstairs to the bedroom. I mean, it's like formulaic to a fault. But there's some really good dialogue, and the kids actually speak like kids. And a film like this, I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I think the strength of it is the two kids and the way they interact, and the way it's the heavy metal thing and playing the records backwards.
Yeah, right.
You just get involved in their friendship. You believe
totally.
that they're genuinely friends.
Yeah, totally.
Buy into that.
Yeah, I mean, and when there's a bit where Glenn locks himself in his bedroom because he's ashamed.
He's embarrassed,
because he was crying, and he's ashamed. And then I think his sister or his friend confesses. They say, "Oh yeah, I've cried at school before. It's rough." Like to try and get him out of the room. And then he comes out and he's like, to call mum and dad, because it's after he's levitated. And his sister says, "What am I going to tell them?" That Glenn's terrified because he levitated and broke the lamp, and I thought that was really funny. The sort of matter of fact, just the way they kind of palmed it off as that nothing had happened. But yeah, I liked how it was consistently a horror film. It was a straight horror film aimed at kids, but a really, really straight horror film.
And without a doubt, the makers of Stranger Things have seen The Gate. I mean, I think Stranger Things.
Yeah, I can see that totally. So in that sense, it's not a bad approximation of Spielberg, but it doesn't lapse into sitcom at any point. And there are laughs. I mean, Glenn's friend, his mother turning into the dog. I thought that was really funny, and my interest barely waned throughout it. There's just loads of really, really nice bits of flavour in it. I mean, his relationship with his sister is great because she's just at that cusp. She's at that age where she's going to a shopping mall and hanging out with her friends and being a bitch and all that stuff, but she still kind of wants to just let off fireworks with her little brother in the garden. She's at that exact age, and I think that was really well played by both of those actors. It's really legitimately. I thought it was a pretty well written script, to be honest.
I agree. I also think that for a low budget Canadian monster flick aimed at youngers, I say it's really good. I mean, it really did stand out in my mind. I didn't know what. I just remember very clearly The Gate was good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it as a kid.
Yeah,
I remember going back there and renting The Gate 2 the week after. I just don't remember anything about that. Apart from it definitely wasn't as good as The Gate.
Yeah, right.
Great front cover as well. Good video slate.
The first one.
Yeah,
it's good. It's somehow not quite as memorable as the house one, but yeah. And it's the film's just filled with nicely inventive little touches. Like, I mean, there's the thing that I was like, wow, that's great, where they see the family portrait, but it's replaced by a copy in which they're all just dead. Yeah. And I was like, that's really, again, it doesn't. It's weight. I mean, the 15 ratings, I think, is pretty bang on the money, because seeing this as a kid would really have I'd have been traumatized.
I think this is why I liked it, because it felt really adult.
Yeah, totally. But as a child of the 80s, there's always something kind of thrilling about when they blend really, really well done stop motion and puppetry, and those little demons look like actual things running around. They look really, really great, and a properly realistic threat as well. Yeah. Though there is the stuff that doesn't work so well. It's a really interesting blend, because it's stop motion, puppetry, and then there's blatantly short guys in suits. Yeah. So it's a really interesting mix, but for the most part, it works really, really well, I think.
Yeah, I really enjoyed revisiting this. It's kind of one of the things that's like, why did I like this so much? And I can see exactly.
Yeah, exactly, totally, absolutely. I mean, my only, it's not really a complaint, I suppose. They seal the gate up sort of 20 minutes from the end And then the film doesn't really know what to do. They chuck in a couple of jumps, but the finale is kind of an anticlimax. So it seems like there was a natural ending at some point, and they kind of felt the need to sort of sustain it. So the last 20 minutes are not great, but I thought this was a pretty wicked little film, to be honest. If it were made with a comparable level of ingenuity and wit today, when it would probably be a 12, I think it would be a smash, like a real. If it was a 12 rated horror movie made with the same skill today, I think it could be like a sort of smash hit.
Yeah, it really stands out from all those other the films of that decade. But you got to come to some that rise above the parapet.
Yeah.
Critters, The Gate. This is definitely up there with the higher echelon of decent 80s low budget,
totally
coming of age flicks.
Yeah, well written, well directed.
Yeah.
Well acted.
And amazing how much for the low budget, how much they get on camera.
They really do. Yeah, they really do. I have one question though. Glenn's mate with the glasses, I've forgotten his name. Terry, that's right. Do you reckon he's related to the lady from the beginning of Speed, the Keanu Reeves film?
Oh, fucking hell, I can't remember.
Okay. Well, it made me laugh that when he gets pulled out of the gate, he says, "I lost my shoe," which is the same thing the woman shouts when she gets pulled out of the elevator and it falls and clips her heel, and she goes, "Oh, my shoe!" And I'm just like, "You ungrateful cow! You've just had your life saved, and you're worried about your shoe." Glenn gets pulled out. His friend Terry gets pulled out. He's like, "Yeah." That was that. Have we had any correspondence on these two?
Yeah, we have. We had Ian Loader.
Yep.
House is great. I saw this quite young, and the practical effects are still good. Enough of the Vietnam PSD stuff got lost on me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Saw it again recently, and it's still fun as hell, and some great monsters.
Wow.
But oddly, the most disturbing thing is still that fucking sailfish.
I'm amazed that people. Well, I mean, that says it all, really, I suppose.
The Gate is the one I didn't see as a kid, but I've seen it a few times now, and it's pretty good. But it doesn't have the nostalgic appeal for me the other similar films do.
That's what it's all about, really, isn't
big
it?
time. Yeah, I mean, in terms of where I'm going with these two, it's quite clear cut.
I think so too. This is actually a really terrific film. I think it stands up well. I'd recommend this movie to anybody.
I think it's a great little movie.
Yeah, really good.
I'm really glad to see it again, and knowing now why I was always just like The Gate. Yes, when it came up, when it got recommended, I was like, yes, I'm looking forward to seeing that again. I hope it's going to stand. I've got no idea. All I remember was the Ray Harryhausen-esque and some of those images that had never left my head. Yeah. But it's brilliant. It was great to revisit.
Yeah, likewise. Well, not to revisit, but see it for the first time. I'm glad I did. I'd watch it again for sure. It's very good. House, on the other hand, I mean. What a mystery that film is. What a mystery. But I'm The Gate all day.
Yeah. So, if you have any comments, any feedback on the episodes that we featured today, the films that we've talked about today, we'd love to hear from you. We'll be back in another couple of weeks.
Take it easy. See you then.
Shabbos.
Cult Film Face-Off.
The experience of The Gate was the first lesson I had, and one of the first lessons I had about writing personally. Generally, it's like you think that, films go out to so many millions of people, if you're lucky, that you have to write things that are general and that a broad spectrum of people can identify with. But actually the opposite is true. The more specific and the more personal the details are, the more universal your work becomes.
Hey Terry, what's that thing called again? A geode. Thunder egg.
It felt like when I read the script, that was part of what attracted me to the script, that it felt very personal. It was really like there was a lot of attention to detail in the reality of it, like the character of Glenn, and he was an older brother at the time when I read it. It just was a very personal script. It felt like somebody was telling, very sincere,